Hello, everybody, and welcome to this mini-series from ROI to ROE, the true value of return on engagement. This is actually part 2 of this series, of this show from ROI to ROE, and this is show 1 of part 2. And this is a 4-part mini-series where I have gathered together, rallied together 4 engagement experts who are all going to be sharing their insights and their wisdom on why coaches, consultants, and solopreneurs need to be more focused on building relationships and authentic connections than on building their lists. Not saying that you don't need a list or shouldn't build a list, just maybe be more focused on building your relationships. I'm your host, Lisa Ingalls. I'm an evolutionary entrepreneur. I'm a consultant and a mentor, and I work with people just like you who are waking up and changing the world. I do that through my programs and services. And this particular series is sponsored by Hangout Strategies for Visionary Leaders. It's a mentorship program that teaches changemakers how to cultivate, connect, and communicate their message to a global audience and make a meaningful impact across the planet through the technology of Hangouts. You can learn more about that by going to bit.ly. I have that right below on my lower third here, bit.ly/Hangout Hero. So today we are kicking off this series with none other than the glorious Ande Lyons, and I'll be bringing her on in just a few minutes. We're going to be busting a few myths about what authentic engagement really is. But before I bring her on, I'm going to set the stage for you here for this entire series, part 2, and then we'll hop into the show. So what I've seen over the past year, even longer, maybe the past 2 years, is that there's a movement happening in the online marketing space, especially in what we might call the experts industry. I've had a lot of discussions with a lot of my colleagues over the past year who are really, really unhappy with what's become the status quo in online marketing. And despite the fact that many experts do call themselves or consider themselves heart-centered and conscious, it's my belief and my opinion that they've been lured, including me, I'll raise my hand on that one, lured into marketing themselves with tactics that fundamentally conflict with their deepest values, which would be connecting and communicating. And then what happens is when they've gotten the mediocre results, or maybe even worse than mediocre results, they feel really frustrated, hopeless. I know I've felt at points really desperate. Maybe you can relate to that. So about a year ago, when I learned about this thing called return on engagement, I was like, oh, the lights, of heaven came down into me, and I was like, wow, I get it now. So basically, let me explain to you what ROE is. ROE, or return on engagement, is the payback that you get on your investment in the engagement process. So basically what you're doing is you're investing your time rather than your money, right? ROE versus ROI, and you're investing in cultivating connections with your audience. So this is, I believe, a super, super, super important concept for those of us who've been trying to fit into that old marketing paradigm and model, because we highly value authentic connection. That's what I've found in my discussions with all my colleagues. Well, guess what? Because of this values conflict and the fact that we actually value this authentic connection, that's the thing that's actually missing from the current traditional marketing paradigms. Authentic connection is created through thoughtful and engaging conversations. It can happen like this in a hangout. It can happen in comments, can happen in Facebook and Twitter and all these places, but most people aren't really doing it. And as a coach, a consultant, and author or speaker, I think that we need to, in that experts industry, right, we need to be focusing on ROE, return on engagement, because it's going to build your brand strength by doing what you already do best, connecting. So last September, what happened is I rallied together, some of you might remember, I rallied together a few engagement experts, Ifat Cohen, Mia Voss, and Denise Wakeman, and we did a series called From ROI to ROE, the True Value of Return on Engagement. It was a phenomenal success. Now it's 6 months later, I've had even more conversations with more colleagues, and I realize how important this concept really is, and I thought it would be good to host a part 2 of this series. So that's what this is, and we're basically revisiting this conversation with another 4 engagement experts, because we want to keep this conversation at the forefront of our minds as we move into 2015, and also because I think we really need to grasp the gravity of this concept if we're really going to do our work in the world and be in service to the awakening of human and social potential. So that was a long setup. Today we're going to be talking to Ande Lyons. Tomorrow we're going to be talking to Stepan Havnonian. On Friday we're going to be talking to Dustin Stoughton. On Monday we'll be talking to David Amerland. So don't miss any of the series, whether you can come live or in replay. Would love for you to see this entire series. Engagement experts who have amazing insights. So I'm going to move on and finally do a formal introduction for those of you who don't know the wonderful, the glorious Ande Lyons. In addition to being an engagement expert, Ande is an authentic she is an authentic connector and communicator, but she's also an enthusiastic and experienced entrepreneur with an MBA and 4 successful businesses to her credit. Ande is the founder and chief possibility officer of Possibility Partners. Many of you have probably seen her very popular show, Possibility Partners, and she provides senior level business strategies and solutions for entrepreneurial adventurers in the midst of launching, branding, and building their business dreams. You can find Ande sharing the love of entrepreneurial adventures on her weekly podcast, Blog Talk, which is on Blog Talk Radio, as well as on her Hangout on Air show. She's also very much engaged across all social media platforms, especially Twitter and Google+. So, without further ado, beautiful, wonderful Miss Ande Lyons. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, my visionary and evolutionary pioneer goddess, Lisa Angles. I'm so thrilled and honored to be here. Hi, everyone. This is such an important topic because things are changing and evolving, and many of us have been trained, especially those of us seasoned folks, in a different style of communication in our early years. And now things have shifted. And even though we have incredible, quote, experts and gurus telling us to be a certain way that absolutely worked for them, we really need to focus on what works for us and with whom we want to have these connections and conversations with. So I'm so thrilled to be here today, Lisa. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, to open this entire conversation with Ande, I have to let you know that for those of you who haven't heard just the short story, how we actually connected, and it was through engagement. So that's one of the reasons that she's one of my best friends here in Google+, but also we get on the phone and we chat for like 2 hours at a time. So we do have a real good connection. But Ande and I met on Google+. We had sort of known each other just peripherally through commenting on Hangouts and in posts, but it just so happened that we both randomly ended up at the same conference in a room full of about 400 people. We randomly were sitting right next to each other, and I heard her talking to the woman behind us about her Hangout on Air show. She's like, I have a Hangout on Air show. You would be wonderful as a guest. And I'm like tugging on her little, on her sleeve. I'm like, I heard you say that you have a hangout on there. I do too. You do hangouts? And she's like, looks at my badge. She's like, Lisa Ingalls, I know who you are. I'm Ande Lyons. Anyways, that was just the very beginning of the blossoming of our relationship and having a live connection with Ande. I always have to tell that story, Ande, because it's fascinating. It's so synchronistic to me that we met that way.
Oh, yeah, in a room of 400 people, what's the likelihood? And you had just, I may not have known you, but you had just done a great piece that our dear friend Ronnie Binzer had picked up and talked about, and that's why I knew you, because I follow Ronnie like white on rice, and I recalled that, and it just came together in a beautiful way, plus you were listening. You listened to the conversation, and you were eager to connect. You know, you didn't know if we were like-minded. You didn't know if it was a great way to start the conversation. And yes, it was so special that we met. I tell you, we squealed. We were like fifth grade girls.
Yeah, it's so true. So, okay, we're going to dive into this conversation, Ande, and talk about this thing called authentic engagement. And one of the ways that I thought we could do this is, I know that we've had a lot of conversations over the past year, and there's been 3 sort of areas that you and I have personally had a lot of conversations, and I thought, oh, well, what if I took these 3 areas that we've been talking about over the past year and put them into myths and bust these myths about authentic conversation. So if you're game for that.
Absolutely, I'm ready to glow with you.
Okay. So all you guys out there, before I hop into these 3 myths, I want to say hi to Stepan. Stepan is here. He's going to be tomorrow's guest. So Roy Montero is here. Kim Carpenter is here. Nicole Levick. I hope I'm saying your last name right. And I know that, of course, Chandra Higgins is here. So welcome to everybody. And please leave your comments. Let us know what you think, and what your viewpoint is on what we're talking about. So myth number 1, Ande, dun, 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 is that video equals connection. Video equals engagement. It's something that everybody's been saying for, it feels like forever. Ooh, you need to get on video. You need to get on video. Get your videos on YouTube. And I think it's been misconstrued that you do video because that's going to create connection. But does video really create connection?
Well, if you're not willing to be transparent and authentic, if you're coming off as a talking head and you have an energetic wall, and you all who are watching know what I'm talking about. Someone gets up, they're the authority, they're bringing their information to you, and you're sitting there and they become like the teacher on a Charlie Brown cartoon, wah, 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 because there's no emotional connection. Now, the good thing, if you're talking with solopreneurs who are coaches and authors, etc., a good portion of these folks have done a lot of inner work, but the bottom line is, if you don't know who you are and who you want to connect with and chat with, then you've got more work to do. You've got to go find out. And for those of us, as I mentioned earlier, Lisa, that were raised in the real corporate confined environment, which was just absolutely on target for where we were in the business world. When I came on board here online in June 2011, I didn't know I had formal in me and how I communicated. I was used to presenting to investors, and as a CEO, I certainly had authentic leadership. But again, out in the world, how are we supposed to engage? What is right for us? And you may see someone else being authentic on a video, but you could never be that way. That's not you. So you find out, well, what will work for me? And of course, the beauty about the Hangouts is that you've got someone else you're bouncing back and forth, and instead of having to memorize a 5-minute intro or a 5-minute piece that you're going to upload to YouTube or Vimeo.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times you'll lose people if it's just you. Now, when I had Bring Back Desire, it was a lot of fun because I had to get a sensual tip off to folks in 2 minutes. So it was very easy, and I could craft really fun, choreographed and crafted videos. but I made sure they were engaging. I made sure that I looked at the camera and brought my whole self with me to the conversation. So there's video, to answer your question, and then there's video. And again, as you're transitioning, and I was at an event very recently here in Boston that was only for chief marketing officers of large brands. And I have to tell you, this is the questions that they're asking. You are right on, you have your thumb on the pulse, Lisa. They are trying to be more authentic, how to have these conversations with their customers on a huge level. So we just scale down what they say into our world, and we're taking that same information and saying, okay, how am I going to make this authentic connection? But I really believe it starts with you knowing what your authentic communication looks, feels, and tastes like.
Yeah, and I think what has happened, and you've already talked about it, is it can get like, oh, I need to do videos, so I'm going to look into the camera, and or not look into the camera, but I'm going to just be a talking head and start presenting my opinion, what I think, what I want people to hop on board with. But the problem with that is that it's a one-way monologue. There's not a conversation happening where you can get the input and the feedback of someone else, which you don't have to do a live hangout like this where we're getting all of the feedback right here live. You can still do that, have it, and have people comment on a pre-posted video and get it. But the point is that to be authentic also means that, to me, okay, this is what I believe, an authentic communication means that you're equally expressing and listening at the same time. Listening is a huge piece in authentic connection and communication. How can we communicate authentically with ourselves without listening to what the other person is saying and taking that into consideration and going, that's a different perspective there. That's good. So let me think about that for a moment and come back to it.
Right. And that's the premise behind all of Tony Robbins and Stephen Covey's work, is the listening component and really putting yourself into the shoes of your potential audience and customer who you'd like to work with. How are they feeling? How are they thinking? What are they going through? And how you're sharing your gifts with the world can be blended in with what they need help with. There's a lot of challenges, though, because we see people like Gary Vee. Hi, I'm in first class on the airlines here, and I just want to get a quick note off to all of you. You know, that's great for Gary Vee. There's very few people who that would work for. He had built up his audience. They loved that casual, put it on the roof of a car, whatever. They like that. A lot of times I'm thinking about folks like myself who have a lot going on. Working, kids, spouses, partners, life. And to stop and do something casual, a casual video that really doesn't take into consideration your audience, again, with who you are. That casual stuff can be a lot of giggling, a lot of laughing, a lot of not on target, not on message. And yeah, you still have to be on message, folks, while you're being authentic, because you do not want to waste people's time. Yeah. And I feel very strongly about that.
That's such a good point. And you're a master at that, I feel like, with staying on point and staying very focused on what is my message. And I love how you do that. You do it in your show. You do it with everything that you do, Ande. you really have mastered that. So I think that that's a great point, that when we're doing video, be on point. What is it that you're focusing on, and who are you trying to connect with? These are basic marketing principles, I think, but the piece around getting in front of the video and doing it, it takes a little bit more thought than just getting in front of a video camera and thinking that you're connecting.
It's true, and video can be very intimidating, and of course we can all have our, well, will they like me? Well, I created the Andelicious brand because I knew folks who didn't like Andelicious would stay away, and I would never have to, think about that.
Yeah.
Because it was like an instant filtering device. Either you get that I'm bringing, hardcore, great messaging to the world that's business, combined with incredible encouragement and enthusiasm and inspiration and just plain deliciousness, that doesn't resonate with you, good. See you, bye. And that's great. And we have to do more of that. And, Deepak Chopra's quote, what your opinion of me is none of my business. You need to remember that too with folks that are not going to resonate with you. And that's why as you move along, and it can take years, folks, so be patient as you figure out who your contact audience is and target audience.
Love it. I'm going to pull up a couple of comments coming in here. I love what Roy says. Authentic connection is about listening. I say it's also being interask-ive. Good one.
I love that, Roy. I love that, interaskive.
And then Nicole says, for me, authentic engagement must create some space in between you and the other person. This space allows for real creation and uniting of other people's opinions and ideas. Absolutely, that's totally spot on.
Oh, excuse me, Nicole. Wow, that was beautifully said.
Yeah, great. Yeah, wonderful. So, okay, myth number 2, Andy, we're going to move on to myth number 2, which is one that we've, I think, talked about ad nauseum, which is email marketing, and that emails equal connection, and this idea that you need to send email after email after email. Now, I know that everybody here probably in our audience is sick of emails and getting a barrage of emails, but I think that actually it's not the emails that are the bad guy, right? It's how we're using the emails that can be done wrong. So it's never the thing, it's how we are using the thing. But let's speak a little bit into the email campaigns, and I'm not in any way saying don't email, you shouldn't email, but the older paradigm has been build up these email campaigns and make sure you're constantly emailing people. So I know you have a lot to say on that. Pass it over to you.
I do, because I mentioned this on my show the other day with Stepan, and that is I struggled for months when I launched Possibility Partners. Why am I going to email? Who am I going to be with these emails? And I realized the connection was important, but I needed to give some thought about how it was going to be a meaningful engagement for me and my business, because look, it takes a lot of time and effort to have an email campaign. And so before you go running down the road with yours, you need to know how much time and commitment it takes out of your day. And then what does your audience, the folks that sign up for your list, what is it that they want to hear? So it was a real struggle for me, and I finally figured out a way that would work for me and would benefit my audience. And even then, you're going to want to tweak, you're going to want to try different avenues and vehicles to reach your folks and find out what works best for them as well. So it's a two-way street. But this brings me to a conversation I had. My son's home from music school. He goes to McGill School of Music, and he was talking to me about the auto box, and auto-tune box. I didn't know about the auto-tune box. I guess it's been out forever. And what it does is it takes your vocal performer's voice and makes sure that it's perfectly on pitch. So it's not really their authentic voice. It has adjusted it to be perfect. And I guess Billy Joel was saying anybody who needs the auto box shouldn't be singing. I think it really relates to what we are talking about today. You can use a filter, a blueprint, something that someone else told you to do, and not do the work to find out what would be best for you. And now your email is going to come across as something that's just bland. I think batched and blasted, I think is what Stepan used yesterday.
Bottled and formulated.
Yeah, and that's just never going to work. And especially, you have to understand, our society is evolving. People are very savvy and aware buyers, and they want to be with people that they feel safe with, have faith in, and trustworthy. And the only way you can do that is by bringing your authentic self to your audience. And that, in turn, will create the evangelists that you want. The folks, that little tiny segment that go off and share your work and say to people, hey, do you know about so-and-so? Oh, my gosh, she's great. Lisa Engels, now she's the one who's going to get you there. And wow, it's because you had that meaningful engagement. But again, you've got to do the work so that you can show up, because sometimes people go, well, I don't know who I am. I'm just following what everybody's telling me to do.
Oh, that is such a good point. It's a little bit of a digression from our actual conversation, but that piece about doing the work, and I feel like I've been saying this a lot lately, that in this field and when you are here to make a difference and make an impact in the world, you need to know who you are. You need to have done your shadow work, and because guess what, you guys, if you don't, it's going to show up in your, or it's actually going to block you from creating those authentic connections and having the engagement that you really want. I keep saying that waking up isn't a one-time event. It's an ongoing journey. It's a process. So as we're here as leaders, it's important, like you're saying, Ande, that we do the work so that we can have those authentic engagements. And to the email piece, I think you have to be somewhat intuitive to know, okay, my particular group of people can handle about 1 email a month from me, or 2 emails a month, or whatever it might be. And you know what, you guys, you can see by your opt-in rates, if you're only getting 10%, not opt-in rates, sorry,
open rates, yeah.
I meant open rates. Sorry. You can see by your open rates if people are connecting with you or not connecting with you. I know that for me, I generally have about a 35% open rate, which is considered actually pretty good. But I have a small list, and I'm very mindful about how I connect with them. I'm wondering, could I get that open rate to be even more if I had even better connection? Maybe. And that might be something that I'd like to try to do for myself.
Well, I think the emails are tricky because, again, so many of us have been trained to communicate a certain way when we send the emails out. And you've got to just know who your audience is. And the brand that you're using, your brand promise, is what you will emotionally deliver to everybody. Not just the service you're delivering, the emotional experience you're delivering to everybody, and that needs to carry through in your email campaigns as well. So getting to know folks and that being authentic is key. Let me tell you, they're talking about this in publicly traded companies, the CEOs. What investors look for are CEOs who are enthusiastic, passionate, honest, transparent. Those are the ones who are doing really well on Wall Street. It's the same thing right down here in our own little solopreneur or 10-employee type of shop. It is about the same leadership skills and authenticity skills that you need to embrace and adapt to your communication style.
You know, and as you say that, it reminds me that this all takes time. Return on engagement, it's a time investment. So if you think that it's going to be a quick turnaround, it's not going to be. It builds, but there's like an exponential factor of it that as you take the time and more over time, at first it's like, I don't see any results happening from this. But then you see the little sprout, you know, and then it like turns into this huge tree and you start to get the fruits of the tree. So it's a time investment. And I know that a lot of people think, oh, I don't have the time to do this. But my opinion is that you don't have the time not to do this. And some of it might be a retraining thing for people.
Right, and it's a retraining, and it's like cracking open that oyster to find the pearl within. There's that Cahill Gibran. It really, as painful as it is to break open the shell, it is necessary because we want more of you. The world needs more of you, and trust me, comparison is the thief of joy. So don't look at Lisa or me or your neighbors or anybody as to what that looks like. You do it for you, and trust me. I put a quote into the thread of that Susan Winter did, and I don't want to just say it off the cuff. And she says, our market will find us when we are in integrity and agreement with ourselves. So the more authentic that you can be, your market will find you because you'll be expressing yourself in a way that resonates for them.
Right. And I'm just really quickly going to answer to Sandra Freeman says, would you be more specific about being mindful with the emails? And I'm just going to say that exactly what Andy just said, that quote, is what I mean. Being more mindful with emails, I'm just saying you're not just bottling them up, trying to use a blueprint and thinking, okay, I need to get, because your business coach told you you need to do one email a week for consistency. Be mindful, is that really what your audience wants and needs, and is there a purpose to that, or are you just putting out an email every week because you were told that you have to have that consistency? Well, yeah, you have to have consistency, but you also have to have purpose with it as well. So that's what I'm meaning by.
And I think too, if I might add, what I learned from Stepan yesterday is that as people start engaging with you, you can start segmenting them. Oh, these
Yes.
people really like that post. Maybe they'd like an email about this that I just heard about. You start, connecting based on their interests and their inquiries.
Perfect. Perfect. So what I'm going to do is now go into our third myth, because this is something that happens a lot, especially in the experts industry, where you do strategic partnerships with people. You do these things called affiliate marketing. I'm sure many of you have either done them yourselves or you've been on the side of receiving from a huge slew of affiliates. So what happens is you do a gift giveaway, or you're involved in a telesummit or a webinar of some sort, and a whole bunch of 5 or 6 or 20 experts get together and they all share their list and they all send their list out to this event, and then all of a sudden you sign up for it and you realize, oh my gosh, I'm now getting emails from 20 people that I don't even know who they are. So the myth is this, that, how do I say this, that you can leverage other people's relationships and connections with their audience and take advantage of that. I think that was the old school way of thinking, like, okay, well, Ande has a great relationship with her list and she's cultivated all these great authentic connections, and because they know and trust her and she recommends me, they're going to know and trust me and want to buy my stuff. It doesn't work that way at all.
No, and I, of course, I never qualified for any of those because a lot of times they had a minimum list requirement. But who are you to think that you would ever resonate with my audience? Are you kidding? Or I would with yours. This is why having a podcast or a hangout on air is so important, because this is where real leverage happens. And this is what I call real affiliate marketing, because Lisa's interviewing me. She'll share this with her audience. If someone resonates with me, they'll follow me, they'll connect with me, and then I'll be responsible for building that relationship deeper. Same vice versa. I'll share this event with my audience, and people go, oh my gosh, I love that Lisa Angles, or someone's just going to hit delete. It doesn't matter to Lisa. It's great when someone goes, wow, I love what she's saying. I'm following that person. That is true leverage. The audience, the marketplace makes a decision, not you. And it creates more alignment. You bring a bunch of experts together for a telesummit, that's wonderful, because each of them are so different and they all have a different audience. And for anybody to think that your work is going to, by having them all in your email and dumping it in, I just think it's out of integrity.
Yeah, and that brings me to, I was taking a note there as you were talking because I didn't want to forget it, but it brings me to this idea of expectations when it comes to your connections and lists. And one of the things that I've found in this whole return on engagement thing is that it's not about the size.
I just said that yesterday. Does size matter?
It's not about how big it is, meaning your list. It is about the level of connection and relationship that you've built with those people on the list. My thing is, I keep saying, I don't need to have a list of 30,000 or 3,000. I probably only need to have a list of 300 to and can I really have true, authentic connections with those 300 people? It's questionable. But the point being is I don't need this huge list if I've taken the time to develop these deep connections or the authentic connections, because those people who need you when they need you will find you. And as a solopreneur, how many clients can you have? I mean, I don't know.
I think it's just really focusing on your work and understanding marketing. You need to keep preparing for the next quarter and the next quarter and the next year. And at the same time, really listening, as you said earlier, and being willing to find out what works for folks. And I tell you, we get bombarded with folks' ideas of how it should be out there, and there's a lot of blaming and shaming that goes on. Really, 200, 300, 800, it really doesn't matter. You are really looking for that one conversation at a time, that one connection, that one contextual connection with folks where it's meaningful.
Yeah. I'm going to pull up a couple more comments. Stepan is proud of you, Andy, listening to all the goodies that you picked up from the chat that you guys had yesterday, and you guys should go check that out. Andy and Stepan just had an awesome hangout yesterday. Andy did, so we'll put that link in the comments so you guys can check that out. Kim says, the market makes the decision to follow you, not you. She loves that.
Hey, Kim. So nice to meet you, too, through Lisa. How wonderful. And it's just really been my experience. Today's marketplace, again, savvy shoppers. They'll know if you're right for them. It's just making sure you're getting your messages out through emails, through videos, through connecting on social media platforms, through connecting at the local Starbucks or wherever you are out there engaging.
Yeah. So you guys, we're going to put the link to join us in the green room after the fact. If you guys want to come in, say hi to us for a few moments. I'll put the link to the green room in the comments. And we're going to wrap up our first show of from ROI to ROE, the true value of return on engagement. And thank you guys for coming, showing up live, taking the time out of your day to be in this conversation with us, a very, very important conversation. And most importantly, thank you to my guest, Ande Lyons, who I just love to death. I wish that you didn't live on the East Coast and I lived on the West Coast, because I would be having coffee. I think I would be, running over to your house at least once a week to hang out and have coffee.
Absolutely.
Stepan gets to do that with you. I'm jealous.
I know, Stepan does. Absolutely. Oh, well, thank you very much for having me for a timely and sincerely important topic. We're all doing the best we can. Remember that. Be gentle with yourselves every day. You're having new opportunities to grow, to embrace, your fear and your doubts and and the shadow side of authenticity, which is fake and imitation. And you're having the opportunity to bring more of yourself to the world. And I thank each and every one of you for having the courage, seriously, to bring your gifts to the world. I'm in awe and wonder of you.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful parting words. Thank you, Ande. And once again, thank you to everybody out there who's been, the comments are going off. We'll make sure to hop in and reply back to your comments there. Thanks for everything, you guys. If you liked what we were talking about on today's show, I'm also going to be hosting, not to throw all these things at you, another 4-part series at the end of this month where you'll learn how to use Hangouts, as we've sort of talked about a little bit, Ande and I did today, how to use Hangouts as part of your engagement strategy to cultivate, connect, and communicate your message to a global audience and make a meaningful impact across the planet. And you can go find out more about that at the link that's right below here, bit.ly/Hangout Hero. And lastly, we're having Stepan Havnonian on tomorrow. You do not want to miss that hangout. So be on the lookout. Have your eyes open. If you're in the comments, I'll send you have a notification circle going on. So I will make sure that you get the invite to part 2, show 2 of this series tomorrow. thanks, everybody, and come join us in the green room if you have a couple minutes. I'll put that link in, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.